Hey guys, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, so, one of the things I love about your story is that you sort of went out on your own and did something that wasn't necessarily expected from you. Both sets of parents have very traditional backgrounds. The expectation was that you were going to go to school, become a lawyer, become a dentist, which you did become, and have sort of a traditional life and a traditional trajectory. But in fact, you went another way and you started this Tipsy Elves company that's all about making some pretty quirky products. Tell me about how your family reacted to that and the kind of maybe pushback or maybe not that you got from your closest friends and family.
Yeah, I think for Nick and I can speak to myself, and I think Nick feels the same way. It was, for me, I wanted to do something that I enjoyed, and ultimately, I wanted to have fun with my life. And when I started working at the law firm, I realized it wasn't all that it was cracked up to be for me personally. So when I found that I wasn't really enjoying what I was doing to the extent that I felt was possible in my life, and then at the same time, we had this idea to start a fun clothing company. It was, even though it wasn't what I was kind of raised to do, and it wasn't what my education had led me to, it made the decision easier to actually decide to start Tipsy Elves and go for it, because I wasn't really enjoying my job to the extent that I was hoping, and I felt like the idea of starting a fun company would just be so much more fulfilling. So it made it easier to disregard kind of what my education was, what my parents' background was, and just kind of do what made me happy.
Yeah, now Nick, you had actually started your own practice, so you were already running a business, but a dental business, you were a dentist. What was that transition like for you? I knew it took a little bit longer.
Yeah, it was very similar to how Evan was saying, is that, I had spent 10 years to become an endodontist, which is a root canal dentist, and was working doing that and enjoying it to a degree. But like Evan said, I don't think that I was having as much fun in life as I felt like I could. And Evan and I both feel that everyone has the right to have fun, and we kind of built our business on that idea. And so when we saw this opportunity, starting with Christmas sweaters and moving into patriotic clothing and Halloween and all these different categories, it made the decision actually very straightforward. Even though to other outside people like our parents or some friends and things like that, they might have thought we were kind of crazy. We saw the opportunity in the business, and also just the personal satisfaction that we would get from spending every day having fun on something that we love to do. That it didn't really matter what anyone said, because we had the personal conviction that it was the right decision.
Yeah, now you just mentioned when you saw the opportunity, which I think is really important, because I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs who say that, the risk of starting a business is too great. And it's because for the most part, they're just starting something to start something. But you actually did it the other way, and I could argue the smarter way, in that you saw an opportunity and you started this company not because you're necessarily passionate about Christmas sweaters, but you started it because you saw a unique opportunity. And you saw that by looking at data, by really examining your target market. How can other people who are watching, who may want to start a company, get a little smarter about that? How did you use the data to find out who you were really talking to?
I would say the first thing is that there always is going to be a risk. I mean, that's the first thing that you have to accept. There's definitely ways to be smart about risk, and I agree. I think we were pretty good about that. But first of all, to start any business, there's inherent risk, and you have to accept that. But we are passionate about having a good time and having fun. That's what Evan and I, really like to do. You're right. We started out in Christmas because of there was a clear opportunity to start in Christmas. Had there been a clear opportunity in patriotic gear or some other fun clothing, that's probably where we would have started. And I'll let Evan talk more to the data, because that's kind of his area of expertise. But we saw that there was a lot of search for terms like ugly Christmas sweaters with very little competition, 5 years ago.
And yeah, exactly, Evan. You saw that while you were studying SEO, and you saw the opportunity. How did you stumble upon that?
So I had a background, besides law, something that I sort of self-taught myself was internet marketing and search engine optimization, paid advertising, and different things like that. So once, Nick and I had sort of settled on the idea of we have to create a company that's all about having fun. What can we do to do that? we had these different ideas, Christmas sweaters, ski suits, patriotic gear, Halloween. What are the different products that people wear and to have a good time? And Christmas became the most obvious one at the time, just because there was a very high amount of search volume for the term, Christmas sweaters, ugly Christmas sweaters, and there really wasn't anyone that was currently doing it at the time. So that was sort of the validation to the idea that we had of the idea of the business that we wanted to start. That was sort of the nuts and bolts research that gave us confidence that if we did it, it would be a great way to start marketing for cheap right out the gate.
And I would say, to answer your question, Michael, is for people that are starting a business to minimize risk, is that you of course need to have a great idea for a product or an idea. And you need to be, they always say you need to be solving a problem. And ultimately, when you say you're solving a problem, what that means is if there's already built-in demand for whatever you're making. And so I have some friends who have started their different businesses, and they have products that are cool and fun, but there's no one really looking for that product. And it's a much bigger challenge to teach people that they need a product than to create a product that people already know they need and just didn't know that your product was the product solving the problem. So finding that demand ahead of time is a good way to minimize risk.
Yeah, and of course you can look for that demand, and you can think that maybe you see it, you can make an assumption, but then actually recognizing it and getting closer to it, that's a little bit harder. But your story is great because when you first started, you thought you were going to have, I think you ordered 1,000 sweaters, you went to a trade show in Las Vegas, there was a ton of demand, you ordered an additional 4,000, and within 3 months you had sold 5,000 sweaters before Christmas even happened. What did you think about that? I mean, that is incredible growth and demand in a very short period of time. Was that real validation for you that you'd stumbled on something that was pretty powerful?
Yeah, I think it was. I mean, until that point, all of our discussions with each other and with friends and family were, this is a fun hobby. We've got our day jobs. It's something we really enjoy doing, and it's giving us a lot of fun outside of work. But is this a full-time gig? No. And that's kind of the way we talked about it. And once we sold through that inventory by early December, our very first year of business, that's when we were both starting to think like, we're on to something here. That's the first time I started thinking that I could very well be doing this full time next year if it continues to go well. That's when I started having thoughts of potentially, being able to quit my career in law and focus on the business full time. So that was validation, and ultimately the first time that we saw, what could be a promising future.
Yeah, and now you went on Shark Tank, and a lot of people will go on Shark Tank for a variety of reasons, but you really did go on the show because you were looking for funding. You went to banks, you found it was really difficult to get a traditional bank to sort of see the vision that you had and to help you fund that. So you were really looking for real cash money to grow the business because you had a few years experience under your belt. When you went in the tank and you saw that there was some interest in the tank amongst the sharks, and you had what maybe isn't a steep valuation, but a optimistic one, certainly. What were you thinking when you went in there? What kind of partner were you looking for? And how did you have the confidence to defend your business in the way that you did?
When we went into the tank, we had 3 people that we thought would be good fits for us, which was Robert, who we ultimately ended up doing the deal with, Damon because of his background in clothing, and Mark because of his background in internet marketing. I mean, they all had, those different experiences. We felt confident in our valuation because we were profitable, and a lot of companies, especially startup companies, take many years to become profitable, and we were able to be profitable from the first day. So, regardless of the product category, which made some people potentially could make some people nervous. I mean, like Mr. Wonderful always says, money talks, and if you're profitable and you're making money and you have a good idea with a clear path to scaling the business, it's pretty easy to be, confident in yourself and in the business.
And you chose Robert, you said, because you really felt like he was invested not only in the business's success, but in your success, in your success as entrepreneurs, and that he really wanted to be on your team. What made you feel like Robert was the good match when you were up there?
I mean, he even said while we were up there that he's investing in the business, but he's ultimately investing in Evan and I. And we were looking to have a true partner and not someone who was just going to, invest some money and disappear. And, the fact that he recognized that regardless of the business he was investing in, and I think that resonated with us. And I have this sense that he probably would have invested in our business, regardless of what the business model was, because of he got along with Evan and I. He believed in us, and he believed in the numbers. So and that was important to us.
Yeah, I think the fit is really the personality fit's really important, and obviously you only get to talk to these sharks for about an hour. But for us, at this point I had quit my job. We'd taken risks to start the business. It's really exciting. It's going well. You feel very fortunate to have gotten even to the point of being on the show. And the last thing you want to do is partner with someone that is going to somehow disrupt what you feel like you've created. And we got a sense with Robert just from his comments and just from watching the show previously that he not only is he a nice guy and fits our personality type, but he also shared our vision for what we wanted to do with the company. And so yeah, all those things were sort of important in deciding to choose him over Mr. Wonderful.
And the nice thing is that since the show, all of what our intuition told us from the show has been true. And we've flown up to Toronto multiple times to meet with him and his team. We've met with him in Los Angeles and San Francisco. We have quarterly calls with him. Anytime I have any question about running a business, how to manage different employees, how to overall vision for Tipsy Elves, whether I should quit my job as a dentist, all of those things, he's been there, with advice and also just as a friend. And so I don't think we could have picked a better partner from the show.
That's fantastic. So you mentioned quitting your job. Now, Evan, when you went into the tank, you were both working on the company, putting a lot of hours in. Evan, you had already quit your job, but Nick, you were still working part-time at your dental practice. I know one of the things that Robert has really added to your team is this element of focus and really getting you to sort of get on board with the vision that you have and fully commit. Part of that was leaving your dental practice. Tell me about that process. Was it difficult to walk away 100% from the business that you had originally been building?
Yeah, I think it definitely was hard. I think anytime you spend that large amount of your life going towards one goal to then completely drop that is not an easy task. I mean, at the time that I quit, a third of my life had been focused on becoming an endodontist, with education and things. So to walk away from that and into something else, it takes some deep thought and decision. But I actually think that my education and my experience as a dentist has helped, and I think Evan would probably say the same. His education and experience as a lawyer has actually helped us become better business people. I mean, as a dentist, I meet new people. I was an endodontist, so I was meeting new people every single day, 10, 15 people, brand new. I was helping manage, a group of employees, and I think it helps to learn how to talk to people, at least for me. And that's helped us in our business for sure.
Yeah, so now as your business has grown, you've had to figure out new and different ways to scale. I know for a while you tried brick and mortar, but that really wasn't the right path. And now ultimately you've really gone into other categories. You're not just focusing on the Christmas and the holiday stuff, but you're doing American stuff, you're doing university stuff. Has it been challenging for you with the name Tipsy Elves to take that brand, which was very much built around Christmas and the holidays, and translate it to other areas? How has that process been?
It hasn't been. I don't think the transition has been that difficult. I think it's been more difficult from people who look at the company from the outside and they wonder, how can they sell products outside of Christmas? But the good analogy that we always use is Banana Republic, which Banana Republic started as a safari-themed company. They made, Hawaiian shirts and palm tree type clothing and things like that. And if you think of the name and didn't have that strong brand affinity with the name Banana Republic, and someone just said, there's a company called Banana Republic, and what do they sell? You would think safari themed, Hawaiian type stuff. And when Gap bought them, they rebranded them into this kind of higher end clothing company, and it doesn't affect your thought process at all. And that's kind of what we're doing with Tipsy Elves. Is the name has an underlying Christmas tone, but ultimately we believe Tipsy Elves stands for fun and having a good time, and that's kind of the direction we're headed. And I don't think our customers. I mean, it's a fun name and we sell fun products. So I think, I don't think it's really affected anything.
Yeah, I think it's, like Nick said, it's only the people that have either watched Shark Tank and seen us presented on Shark Tank as a company that sells Christmas sweaters, or some of our initial Christmas shoppers, from 2012, 2013. But we've had, almost as many non-holiday shoppers now as we've had holiday customers. And to anyone who's bought from us on any of our other collection lines. The question hasn't even come up once. So
Wow.
I think it's really an issue of perception. I think of people who have a preconceived notion about us because of something that they've experienced when we were just a Christmas, just a company that sold Christmas products. But it's actually been a pretty seamless expansion for us.
So this month is National Entrepreneurship Month, which is part of this series that we're doing for LinkedIn. And as part of it, we're asking the entrepreneurs who are from Shark Tank to give one piece of advice that they would give to themselves before they started their company, if they had never done it, if they didn't know anything. What's that one piece of advice you would give that might save you a lot of time and energy?
I think for me, my advice would be that you have to have a passion for your business, or that it really helps to have a passion for your business. And then once you have the passion for it, to make sure you've done your diligence and tested the idea before launching into it. But I think both of those prongs are really important. Nick and I love what we do, and a lot of the reason we started the company was it's who we are, that we have always enjoyed dressing up and going in different fun clothes and being the embodiment of fun through what we wear. So Tipsy Elves was this really natural fit for us. And then we did our diligence to check and make sure that, the keyword, the SEO and all that stuff sort of back things up before we started. But I have friends who have launched businesses that they aren't passionate about. They just launched it based solely on the data. And they're usually the ones after a few years, they're kind of looking to do something else. And I don't think Nick or I feel that way, because we launched a business that we were passionate about from the get-go. So,
and I would say that when you get to the point of starting to hire people, to make sure that you treat your employees how you'd want to be treated. I think we, up to this point, knock on wood, every employee we've ever hired is still with us, and we've never had anyone quit, and we've never had to fire anyone. And I think it's because we try to treat our employees, as family, or as exactly how we would want to be if we were in that role. And it makes a huge difference, because it makes everyone feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves, and people want to be respected and want to be working on something that's important to them. And it's awesome, because now our employees are doing things like buying their first house or having kids, and we're able to support them through the business. And it's a very gratifying thing to do, to get to that point as an entrepreneur. And it's only possible if you're treating people with respect from the beginning.
Yeah, and I think that's a great note to end on. I really appreciate you being here. Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks, Michael. Appreciate it.
If you'd like to find out more about Tipsy Elves, you can do so at their website, tipsyelves.com. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch another episode of Behind the Pages. We'll see you next week.